officials over here.
We just usually sit on the side, so it's like, you know, when you have a seat in class, you always sit that.
Yeah.
That's what this side is. You're welcome to sit.
I was gonna go sit right by the map so I could stand up and look at it.
That's a good idea. A lot of people,
What's that?
I'm sure they'll zoom in a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Look really close, that'd be your best bet.
Just make sure I log out because it's wide open for editing with my login.
We've started a car lot. We have Marcy's brother and his wife. Right. Living downstairs. The two cars. Marcy has two cars. Anna and right. Al have two cars. You could have more though. You know what? Driveway spaces for everyone.
We're on the very east end of
I just hate it because
all we have contractors there. We have cars.
yeah.
So is one kind of like a flag law?
Anyway, what we're looking, we have a south facing the yes. Well, not the
You're looking at?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been to your farm and pictures. Yeah.
you had a south.
Yeah.
Just mark it.
Oh, that's great. And
Yeah, we parked on the
wow. And you're gonna be
It's Marshall's brother parks.
You know, at some point,
Yeah.
like, a big ship's gotta get back.
It's fun, you know.
So your wife is really friends with my mom. Yeah. I'm the VP finance.
Yeah, that'd be great. We're gonna get started here right at 5, and you're welcome to come over a little closer. We're gonna be focused over on this other screen if you'd like. So, my name's Adam Cowie. I'm the Lindon City Administrator, and we want to make sure you're in the right spot and have the right information here tonight. Tonight is just a discussion item, a presentation that will be reviewing with you some information regarding the future 1000 South in Pleasant Grove. And this is just an informational meeting, and so no action or changes or anything will happen tonight. This is just an FYI, and want to make sure that our Lindon residents know about this future roadway and how and when that might develop and what it might look like. So we have a couple Pleasant Grove attendees here, and then also our city staff, and so hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions. We were thinking about 45 minutes for this meeting, and so we'll try to keep that short. And again, no changes or action tonight, just informational purposes. But I'm going to turn this over to Mike Florence. He's our Community and Economic Development Director, and he's going to give you a presentation on some of the past events that have happened with this roadway. And we are recording this on our YouTube channel, so this is live right now on YouTube. So if somebody's not here that would like to see or hear more information about this, you can go to the Lindon City website, and there's a link for our YouTube channel. And so as soon as we're done, they can view that and rewatch it as many times as needed. And then everything on the screen is viewable on there as well. As part of that, there's a couple microphones that are here. And if you wanted to ask a question, if you can just ask for that mic, and then it'll pick up better on that recording. So that'll help us. Mike, I'll turn that over to you. Thanks.
Sorry about that.
There is a sign-in sheet that's going around. If you're interested, if we have other future meetings, we've just listed a spot there for your email, and we'll keep you in the loop if there's other developments that come up that you may be interested in learning about. So.
All right, well, thank you again for being here tonight. I want to go through a quick history of the area, kind of the master planning that the city's done over the last 50, 60 years for this. So the city's required to adopt a general plan. Part of a general plan is we adopt a street master plan map. And so I've included in this presentation the master plan maps for the streets that the city's adopted.
I didn't get who you are.
Oh, my name's Mike Florence.
Okay.
I'm the Community Development Director,
For who?
Lindon City.
Okay.
So, so this was our first master plan map. It was adopted in 1968, and this is where 1000 South in Pleasant Grove, 800 North in Lindon shows up on our first map here. And so this is the 1968 to 1964 map. This one's the 1995 map. I've highlighted those sections for you. And so when development comes in, what we do is we look at this map and say, okay, where's our newest streets need to be constructed? Are they on the map? And then depending on the type of street, so we call out different types of streets, whether it's a collector street, an arterial street, a local street, then that determines what size the street is going to be, the capacity of the street as well, and the design of it. So this one's the 1995 map.
Can I
Yeah.
interject there? So on a couple of those earlier maps, the 1968 and the 95 maps, the city at the time just adopted the arterial roadways. It didn't show on these maps all the local neighborhood streets. And so just as an FYI, as we got further into the 90s and then into the 2000s and later, the city then added a lot of the residential streets that you'll see on some of these subsequent maps.
So this is our 2000 map. On here, you can, like Adam said, you can see the blue streets on there. That's where we started to add those local streets on there. This is the 2011 Street Master Plan map, and so like I said, every time we update this, we hold public hearings on these maps, and so last year we just updated our general plan again, and so last summer we held a public hearing on the whole general plan, on the Street Master Plan maps, our parks map, you know, all the different elements of the general plan we discuss with the public, and then. This is our newest map. This was the one that was adopted last summer in 2023. So this is Pleasant Grove's. Daniel, this is 1995, is that what you told me? So this is Pleasant Grove's 1995 map. Again, has that 1000 South and Pleasant Grove highlighted. And then this one's a little harder to see. I couldn't highlight it because it was already in yellow, but 1000 South is down in that area there, and it's designated by the hash marks. So this is the subdivision map that was adopted in 1994. This is for most of you are here. This is your neighborhood. So it was called the S&P subdivision, Plat A, 10 lots, and as part of that subdivision, the developer dedicated the streets to us. So dedicated, you can see, let me go up here. So they dedicated this part of 725 North, this part of Main Street, half of Main Street, and then this section of 800 North in Lindon as part of that subdivision plat. So it's been that way since 1994. A lot of people, they don't know to look at a subdivision map when they buy their home, you know, this has been on there since 94 as part of that development proposal. So that's a lot of times that's how cities receive roads, is they're constructed by a developer. Most, probably 90% or more of the roads in Lindon are here because they were constructed by a developer. Then the city, will do a capital facilities plan at times and budget for those with the council to finish some other roads that may be on the plan. So this is very similar. This is Orchard Park, which is a little bit further east of your development. And you can see they've, on some of those lots, they dedicated a small portion of the right-of-way to Lindon as well. You can see on their plat, this was done in, I can't see a date on that. 2008-ish. Yeah, 2008-ish. You can see 1000 South. They've identified on the backs of those lots there. So this is east of Main Street. So many of you were made aware of all this because of some changes that Pleasant Grove is doing with what they call vicinity plans. So Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, but your vicinity plans, you take what areas you're looking at the planning for development in the future. And so this is your 2014 map, and it had a bunch of downhill cul-de-sacs on that vicinity map. And so they've recently been reached out to by a property owner that wants to develop a couple lots, and I think you felt it was time to develop this, to change this existing plan to a new plan. So I think that's why most of you probably received a public notice from Pleasant Grove City that they were changing their vicinity plan to this one here. So less cul-de-sacs, but connecting 900 South, is that right? 900 South and 900 South and 1000 South with 3 future roads there. Daniel, anything you'd want to add to that?
No, well.
Maybe you could introduce yourself really quick, Daniel.
Sure. Can you go back to the previous one, Mike, please? That one. Hey, everybody. My name is Daniel Cardenas. I am the Mike Florence of Pleasant Grove City, but he's way more handsome than me, so. But same, Community Development Director of PG. So what we have right there, we had a vicinity plan. A vicinity plan is a network of roads of undeveloped land. That's it. Kind of gives an idea where the roads are going to go for undeveloped land. That's what we had accepted in 2005, something around there? 2014. So in 2014, so the engineer grabbed it and said, hey, you have a bunch of undeveloped land right there, and this is what we want to do. So if you guys can see 1000 South is there, that's not in question. What we are seeing is that all those tiny little cul-de-sacs, do we have a place there? We don't? Okay. So what we have right here is these tiny little cul-de-sacs, 1, 2, 3, and there's 4 and 5, all the way going right here. So what we said is like, hey, these cul-de-sacs are not efficient. We're gonna just eliminate those cul-de-sacs. That's it. So the amendment for the vicinity plan that Pleasant Grove is going right now, which is a legislative decision. That's why we send notices to our neighbors, is because now we're eliminating the cul-de-sacs. We're making it simple. The same way Brigham Young explained it, right? Just squares right there. Eliminate the cul-de-sacs. But that's it. That's all we're doing. So we're not talking about eliminating or adding anything to 1000. The same thing that has been on the plan since 1968 is the same thing that's sustained. We're just eliminating the cul-de-sacs. But we thought that you guys wanted to know that, so we sent the notices. We've been in cooperation with the staff from Lindon, and that's the proposal. Simple as that. Just eliminating those downhill cul-de-sacs.
So we've heard there's some concerns about double frontage lots, that your homes on 725 would also have a road behind it, and so I just wanted to point out that the city has approved double frontage lots in the past. Our city does allow that with approval from the city council, and so there's double frontage lots. You can see those here. Those are up on the north or southeast side of the city. These aren't too far from you. There's Locust Avenue and 450 South. Those are double frontage lots.
The dead end.
So, I have a question.
Yes,
Are those double lots, on both sides Lindon City, or is one side Pleasant Grove, another city? and
these are both Lindon,
Both Lindon?
yes.
Would you have anything that represents both Pleasant Grove and Lindon's? Because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with another city that has no regard for us.
Yeah, and you're talking about cul-de-sac dead-end roads. That's very different than this arterial road.
The previous one wasn't. It was not a dead-end road. And then this one down at Ivory Homes, it,
That's because that's getting built brand new, and I can't believe you guys approved a double frontage for that, on that 380 unit apartment complex.
that's not a 380 unit apartment
separate.
complex. Those are single-family homes, and they have, they're detached single-family lots. They range in size from 5,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet in lot sizes. They have a boulevard going down the middle. So, you know, that boulevard will carry quite a bit of traffic as well in that neighborhood.
I did go to that planning meeting, and I did specifically ask the developer if they were gonna put in a commercial grade fence along the back line, because that was not in the building code. He did say yes, and that would seem pretty standard when building a double fronted lot. And that's another concern that we have about our street for the safety.
Okay, well, that's great. I can totally understand that, for safety reasons, noise reasons. Yep. So,
Is Lindon vested in that? Will they represent us? Or once they've got the land and they start the road, is it Pleasant Grove's problem?
I'm gonna pass this mic around. Can you repeat that for us?
I'm just wondering if Lindon City will be vested in those lots that could be double frontage, or once Pleasant Grove puts their road in, are you just like, hey, that's Pleasant Grove side, we're done? Or do you still advocate for us as residential people in your city?
yeah, I mean, we definitely advocate for you. We are far from a design. Like, this, you know, we didn't, Lindon City, we didn't know that, we knew about the same time you did that this road was, that Pleasant Grove was doing the vicinity plan, right? That they were making a change in it. But as far as the road, yeah, we still need to work out designs on that. Nothing has been set in stone yet on what it's going to look like. So you can see from this picture, you know, what from Locust Avenue, you can see the design. It's got a park strip, a sidewalk, it's got homes fronting that. So those aren't double frontage, you know, but you can see the design of the street. But as far as whether a wall's going to go in or what type of fencing, we're not there yet. We haven't.
But we asked those questions at the PG meeting, and they very specifically said they weren't building a fence.
Use the mic, please.
Yeah.
It's right behind you.
We asked those very same questions at the PG meeting that they had. I asked if they're building a fence and a sidewalk, and both were no. They said they're just building a gutter. And that's a huge safety concern, traffic concern, noise concern for us. And the fact that this is on Lindon City land, Lindon City needs to be advocating to have those things properly installed for its residents.
Okay. Yeah, these are things we'll take notes of, and there's not a timeline for building this road. They do have one developer that's on 900 South, a property owner, that wants to do 2 lots, and I don't believe he will be constructing 1000 South. Yeah, we don't know, but you know, we don't know about his portion, but as far as the whole road being installed, we don't have a design for that yet, but that's why we're here. We'll put your notes down and definitely bring those with a discussion with Pleasant Grove.
Have they done measurements of that actual space up to make sure that they will have enough room for sidewalks on both sides?
I don't think we've got into any designs yet, so.
It's a tight space.
The space that's there is adequate to put in sidewalk on both sides as well as the full width of a road that we would need. So there's really not, I'm Aaron Wilson, I'm the city engineer in Pleasant Grove. So we have looked at it well enough to know that there is enough area there. And even if there wasn't, we would require that developer on our side to dedicate enough right of way for those pieces to go in there as they develop. Each one would have to do that. But I believe the existing area there will be adequate.
Just as an FYI, I don't know, Mike, if you could go back to maybe just the county parcel
I have a
layer.
question about that road
And-
right there.
We'll come back to you in just a second. So just as far as sidewalk goes, there is sidewalk on that newer stretch that was just put in 4 or 5 years ago. There's sidewalk on that south side of the roadway, and it dead ends there. And then as you go further east, there's sidewalk on the south side of the roadway that dead ends from the other end. And so our anticipation would be that those would connect. And so certainly Lindon would want to see sidewalks along a public roadway. And so I hope that answers your question, Eve.
Would you want to see like a good commercial grade fence up along our property lines?
That's something that we would need to work with you as property owners and with Pleasant Grove and see what we can do there. So
And I mean, like, that's really important for safety.
I understand.
Well, when
No,
it's time.
pass it on.
I just wanted to state for clarification purposes and my own benefit, I'm Matt Jolly, my wife Jenny. We own the property on the PG side on the very east end. Those 3 parcels, there's about 3.5 acres there with 2 homes. And my understanding is that no road would be constructed until those property owners want to develop those lots. It's not like the city's going to go put anything in place at their own expense. Is that accurate? So if property owners don't want the road's not gonna get developed.
Let's let PG respond to that one.
You are correct. So if you want to subdivide, then you'll be required to put the road. If you want to subdivide, well, nobody's gonna force you to it.
Right, so the city's never going to spend city tax dollars, public dollars to put in a road on my property.
On your property?
And the city's already been denied by MAG twice to put a road in there because it's not deemed necessary, right?
But again, if at this point, okay, if you ask me, Daniel, hey, are you guys gonna force me to do a road right there with the knowledge that I have? No, unless you want to subdivide. Now, whether there are some grants going on or something going on with MAC, or I don't know if you're aware of something like that, Aaron, but I'm not aware of something like that.
There's no current applications or requests or proposals?
Yeah, then I won't force you to put a road through your property if you don't want to develop. Aaron may have something, but from planning and zoning, no.
Okay.
So from the engineering side, I understand what you're saying. We have submitted twice. We have since stopped submitting, so to speak, right? That we're actually right in the middle of the next round of submissions. And we recognize that what it is, really what it comes down to is the county, which is the rest of the government entities, have not deemed this road to be of regional significance, which means that they're saying, right now, this is more of a Pleasant Grove Lindon roadway. So like Daniel said, if someone wants to develop, they would be required maybe to put the road in. And what that could entail is if someone wants to build right in the middle of it, they may have to put the road in, right? They may have to front the money to put the road in. Well, if they
want to develop in the middle and put the road in,
It's from
then
Locust,
they're gonna have to
from
put the
Locust.
whole road in to get you.
Yeah, and so they'll have,
To get utilities.
and he did mention someone has come and talked to us about concepts, nobody has submitted a formal application for anything. So again, there's nothing that's a formal application of I'm going to develop this. They come in, they discuss with us, and we work with them on concepts of what to do, because there's a lot more that goes on with that. We have an agreement between Pleasant Grove Lindon that shares utilities in that area, so Pleasant Grove provides some utilities to Lindon residents and vice versa. And so we have to work out all of those details with them during that development process. That's why we have them come and meet with us and review concepts and all those types of things.
This gentleman had a question, right?
So concerning 800 North and 100 South, or 1000 South in Pleasant Grove, I put that road in. That's on my property. And when I bought that property in 1992, I think,
Where are you at? Which parcel?
I'm in Lindon, and I'm the second house up.
You're talking about going east from Locust.
So
Yes,
East from
yes. So when I bought that property, I had it surveyed, And you probably, I don't know if you know this, but there was 60 feet in the county that didn't belong to either city. And the cities got together and decided how they were gonna divide that ground up. And the night I was getting my building permit, Lindon said, you need to give us the land for that road and we'll put the road in. But that land ended up being in Pleasant Grove, and Pleasant Grove said, we don't do roads, or we don't build roads, developers do. So I ended up developing that road eventually, and I still have some ground on the north side, a little strip. And we tried to get them to develop, but they didn't. But anyway, so what you're saying, if that's the road you're talking about, that you asked for a grant and you haven't gotten, there's really not a lot to develop up there. And the cost to build that road, based on what I had to spend, would make it not worth it for anybody, because there's not enough land to develop.
Totally agree.
So in my opinion, I don't know if that road's ever going in. And there was a man just to the north of my property that built a house on a road that Pleasant Grove was gonna put in, and he got him to abandon that road. Do you know what I'm talking about? It comes out of the other intersection on the other side of 9 South and comes across. It was supposed to eventually join that land.
The Brandon Sidwell property?
Yeah, Sidwell, yeah. So anyway, yeah, so I don't, we don't think, I mean, I don't know what your plans are, but you're talking about a road too. So when you showed your map, it looked like Lindon has some of that 60-foot strip, which I thought was all Pleasant Grove.
So when that S&P subdivision was developed, and there was a portion of that future roadway that was dedicated to Lindon City because the plat was in Lindon. But it was dedicated as a future road parcel, and so our negotiations and intent with Pleasant Grove has always been the understanding that this is a future road, and we would deed that to PG as part of that road construction at some point. And then to the east, just to the east of Main Street, was the other plat, which was Ivory Homes developed, part of the Orchard Park subdivision.
Right.
That cul-de-sac, and there was a stretch there that was also dedicated as city roadway. You can click on that city partial.
Well, I know when I developed that road, we had to wait for Ivory for you to decide what size the storm drain had to be in order to, we had to upsize the storm drain to accommodate the Ivory development that's on the.
So this section and that little strip was dedicated to the city for the future, to the city for the future road right-of-way, because that's what the property owners owned at the time. So when Ivory Homes came in, they developed all of this subdivision right here, and they actually posted, it was about $18,000 that they paid to Lindon City that would go towards those future curb gutter and sidewalk improvements along that section of the roadway. And then I think you had mentioned, sounded like you guys own some of this up in here. And so whenever you chose to develop, or a future owner develops and wants to subdivide, then those road improvements on that north side may be triggered, and we would work with Pleasant Grove and jointly cooperate to finish that section that's in.
So that piece you pointed out is owned by Lindon. The next block down from is owned by Lindon, but then past that.
This is private
owned by
ownership.
somebody else.
Yeah,
Private.
so this is a private ownership of that other strip, and that's these individuals that had met with Pleasant Grove.
That want the subdivision.
They were talking about subdividing just 2 lots, was it, Daniel? 2 or 3?
3 lots, yes.
And so, something that's unique with part of the development of this property on the Pleasant Grove side, can you hit that X and just shrink that right there? So, there we go. So we do have some master planned utilities that are intended to go underneath the roadways. So between Pleasant Grove and Lindon, and also with some of our other neighbors with Orem, we have similar arrangements where we don't want to duplicate public utilities and increase cost to taxpayers. And so instead of, Lindon had some lots that are technically in Lindon City on the south side of the road. Pleasant Grove has lots on the north side. Instead of PG putting their water line and Lindon putting in a water line, and PG putting in a sewer and Lindon putting in a sewer, there was an agreement that we entered into as cities that said, let's cooperate and just put in one set of utilities, and we'll work it out between property owners, depending on which side of the border they're in, that they can hook into the adjacent city's utilities if needed. So that was an effort, that's an agreement that we've done, and it identifies this area as one of those utility sharing locations. So if a property owner up in PG were to develop, if they needed access to water and sewer that they couldn't get off of the PG side, they may need to install a line through that future roadway. Eve.
When I was looking up Lindon City Code.
Can you grab that mic again, Eve? Did it end up? Thanks.
I was looking up some Lindon City Code just to see what it said on double fronted lots. And it does, well, it says they're prohibited unless approved by the Planning Commission for the following reasons. And then there's some reasons. But my question now is on a triple frontage lot, because at the very top of 725 North, Joe's home here will become a triple frontage lot, meaning 3 sides of his home will have a major street. 725 North, Main Street, and 900 South. Does Lindon City Code allow for triple fronted single-family residential homes?
When those have been presented to the Planning Commission and City Council, it just depends on the scenarios. There have been a few that have been approved. One would be right here as part of this development. So it was on Main and then here and around the corner. It's not really common, but when the alignment is, if it works, and that's how the developer can maximize the number of lots and the city's willing to accept that in those public meetings, then yes, they have been approved.
That's crazy. And then I had another question. So there's always talk back to the master plan from 1968, and I get it, the cities have to make a master plan, but they do get changed. And I found 2 ordinances in the last 6 years where they have actually removed streets from the master plan. One was in 2017, one was in 2021. Because when these planners are doing this back in 1968, 725 North wasn't even there. And I don't think the original planners of the city would ever intend for these half-acre single-family homes to be a double frontage road. Is there any room to negotiate on this road and make 900 South, which has already been approved, the purpose that the 1000 South was going to have in the master plan?
At this point, my personal opinion is probably not on this section of roadway, because we've got the stub streets on both ends. We've got utilities that Lindon would like to see a water line looped along the back here, then connected back down to Main Street so that the water flows are improved, that they're circulating, that we don't have dead end lines on the end of a water line. So there's some utility reasons, there's some circulation reasons for that roadway being there and then being proposed in multiple spots and already built and constructed. So my personal opinion, Eve, is that probably wouldn't happen. And so the other, I'll get to you just a section on it. The other aspect of that, can you go back to PG's updated plan? And Daniel, you jump in here if I say something incorrect on PG's side. Part of what we do as a city is with our master plan roadways, we are looking at how can property owners develop and make sure that we have roads that will connect in a logical way. Know that area master plan that they updated, the newer one, that they got rid of the cul-de-sacs. There you go. So what my understanding on this, Aaron, is that this PG actually laid out these potential lots. Is that correct? So Pleasant Grove engineers looked at the vacant area and said, how could they maximize as property owners their future lots and their development? And so then they drew in these green and blue lines as an example of here's how they could maximize all of their potential land and develop this many lots. If that roadway were to go in, there's about 8 or 9 lots that front directly on that 1000 South. That would be their only access. So if this type of development were to occur, they would have to put in the roadway in order just to get to their lots. So does that make sense?
Would Lindon City ever approve such high-density lots there? Like, what's the density per acre there?
So this is all this shaded area is technically in Pleasant Grove. Our city limits for Lindon is the south side of that roadway.
Right, but you're giving Lindon City land away for this road, and it's to support a community with much high-density homes than your neighboring Lindon City street has, which definitely detrimentally affects our quality of living.
Thank you for your opinion on that. So, Sean, you had a question?
Yeah, so just in talking to you last time, the ultimate goal, and you said it was like 40 or 50 years down the line, that road would be a thoroughfare that goes up through the foothills and connects with Orem. Is that something the city council and the mayor support? Because I'd like to get them on record, because I highly doubt that if that's a thoroughfare that you were talking about, that it's going to remain a single lane all the way through, because that'll be a main thoroughfare, which means you're going to have to take additional land to make that thoroughfare even more feasible. So we're talking like 2 lanes going in every direction, which means that you would be taking additional land, have to eminent domain, whether it's Lindon residents or PG residents. And again, you told me that was, not even the plan, because the federal government owns some of that land and that you guys are looking at in the foothills. But I'm looking long-term, and things change rapidly. So has that even been thought about? That I highly doubt that would remain a 1-lane roadway in each direction.
So the current width of that would technically be up to Pleasant Grove, but my expectation would be this section that you developed recently, they would maintain that similar width and cross-section as it headed east.
It's a 70-foot road.
Okay.
Originally,
And
it was
so,
a 60-foot road. It got expanded to 70 feet, and 6-foot sidewalks, 5-foot most roads.
okay, thank you. So Sean was correct that on our long-range master plan, this was readopted, and so you asked about, getting the city council members on record. They voted for this map and updated it about every 5 years. The most recent was last fall. And so they voted on this and approved it. And so this section through here is just that piece that we've been primarily talking about. As it connects, this area is already connected. The intent is we've purchased some right-of-way through this area up above these homes. But there is one piece right here in this corner that is actually owned by the U.S. Forest Service. So it would literally take us working with congressional representatives and trying to trade property with the Forest Service to get that road through. That's not an insurmountable hurdle. The Y on the mountain had a similar issue. BYU wanted it, and they were able to work it out with some congressional leaders, and they swapped some property, and they were able to pick that up from the Forest Service. We've heard of other streets and roads that's happened, but Lindon has no current, and I'm going to say within the next 5 years, nothing on our plan to build this section of roadway.
Yeah, but realistically, I mean, I know you can't get cemented into anything, but realistically, if a road's built to connect all those things, do you really think it's going to stay 1 lane in every direction? Is that something we can get you on?
That's the intent right now.
That's not reality. I'm talking reality. The reality is, if you have a main thoroughfare connecting Orem, Lindon, and PG going around that area, it will most likely become 2 lanes in every direction, which means you're going to have to take additional land from Lindon and PG residents, thus even making the issue even greater.
You're completely speculating, and I can't answer that. So.
Well, I understand that, but that's the reality. And I'm saying if you have
correct me if I'm wrong, Noah. Noah's our city engineer. I can't think of a road east of State Street in Lindon that is a 4-lane roadway. We don't have one right now. So there's
right now.
Right, but I'm just saying, just to put that in perspective, I don't think a road of that size east of State Street, we currently don't have that.
So,
Sorry.
I got this mic.
Go ahead.
I got a couple of questions. Can you go back to the map that shows Clark's Road, Clark Evans's road?
Which one was that?
800 north, 1,000 south.
Keep.
8 north in Lindon, 800
The new road off of Locust?
Yeah. So stop right there. So which city is responsible to put a stoplight on that intersection?
Great question. So this would likely be a joint effort between Pleasant Grove and Lindon. And so part of our border right now is behind the sidewalk on that roadway. So Lindon's city limits goes to the back of the sidewalk.
Okay,
And so everything on the north side is PG. So they actually applied for a grant a few years ago through Mountain Land Association of Governments. We've referred to MAG a couple times. They're a regional planning agency that a lot of federal funding for roads transportation projects comes through. And so they had applied for a grant to actually put in a signalized intersection there.
sure.
And they asked the Lindon City Council and Mayor to support that project, and we wrote a letter of support for that. And the grant wasn't approved, that was referenced here earlier tonight. And so, but answer your question, I think that would be a joint project between the cities.
But primarily driven by Pleasant Grove.
Correct.
Okay, so my next question, you can stay right there. My next question is to Pleasant Grove's planning department. The Sewell property. Sidwell, sorry, the Sidwell property. I tried to buy that before he bought it, and I was told by Pleasant Grove City that they were not gonna allow any houses on this road right here facing south. Has that changed? And I'm not talking about the ones that are already there facing south. I'm talking about the ones that are gonna go east.
Can you go back to the aerial map? 'Cause I guess I'm not understanding. Can you go back to the aerial map, Mike?
According to the PG Planning Commission meeting on December 14th, yes, that would be allowed.
But hold on. So, let me see if I understand the question, because I need to make sure I got it, so I won't say something. Are you asking me if these lots right here, so this is the road that we're discussing?
Yep,
Are you asking me if these lots will have frontage to this road?
correct.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Well, the why not is 7 years ago, you told me that would never happen.
Been working for the city for 5 years, but
It's changed, right? The plan's just changed because this used to be cul-de-sacs and now it's a mess. So the other question I have, and I don't know if this is.
wait, but I just need to make sure. You told me, I told you 7 years ago
Not
that.
you.
Okay.
Not you, it was the planning department. Well, it wasn't you though.
Okay.
How long have you been there?
7 years.
You probably came right after I left.
Okay.
Because I moved to Lindon where it was much quieter. So, are you gonna piecemeal this road? Or are you gonna punch it through all the way? And here's the reason I'm asking the question. Because right now you're piecemealing it, and the next piecemeal will be to that next street. Then you'll go a little bit farther, and pretty soon you'll be to Main Street. And once you get to Main Street, if you don't go all the way to 1100 East in Pleasant Grove, Main Street will be a mess.
I think that's a valid question, a good question. But when you're telling me if I'm gonna piecemeal the road, I don't know, because I'm not pushing the development there. So it depends on what the developer wants to do. Like, I have preliminary meetings with them of their ideas, but I don't have a plan to tell you, hey, he's gonna go all the way right here, he's gonna do this much or that much.
Right.
As soon as I know something, for sure, it's important for me to let you guys know. Do you have an idea of how, I mean, we talked about this, Aaron, but we didn't decide exactly how much he needs to do in order to get his development. We have an idea based on what he said, but if tomorrow he comes and says, you know what, I'm gonna buy all the lots and I'm gonna do everything, then everything will be required. Now, that property owner, he owns a big chunk of the road, So that will be when we have our conversation with him, when he decides to tell us exactly what he wants to develop, we'll figure out exactly how much we're gonna ask. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that right now, because that can change tomorrow, or it can even not happen at all.
Right.
So that's what the situation is.
Well, it's gonna happen.
And before I go any further, let me just say that this plan that I showed doesn't maximize the number of lots, okay? Actually, it has a little less lots than the cul-de-sacs. The cul-de-sac plan has a little bit more. I think what this one does is just avoids going through the middle of homes, putting roads through the middle of homes, because that for sure will never happen.
Right. So if you're putting things on the record, my request would be from Pleasant Grove City and also Lindon City, that if you're gonna allow a developer from Pleasant Grove to develop that area to the north of Lindon, that you require that person to do the road all the way through or not at all. Because what's gonna happen is he'll develop the next 2 or 3 lots, and then another developer will come in and do 2 or 3 lots, and so forth and so on. And if you guys allow that, you're gonna have a mess. And once you get to Main Street, if you stop there, then you're gonna have a main thoroughfare going right through the middle of Lindon City, going nowhere. And it's gonna create all kinds of chaos.
Okay.
Thank you for.
When the design comes, for sure I'll mention that. For sure I will.
I had a comment. Eve had raised the question earlier about a fence going along the north side of the Lindon property. And I wanted to connect the dots. I don't know who all was at the Pleasant Grove Planning Commission meeting on December 14th, but Royal West brought up the fact that when those lots were developed in Lindon, apparently there was a requirement from Lindon that a fence be built that was never built. And so is that somewhere on the record, and that commitment has been made and that is now retroactive and the fence does get built when the road goes in?
Yeah, so I talked with Royal today, and we have been through all the meeting minutes, all the bond documents, all the subdivision files for the 725, and it was him, it was West and Story who had combined on that development. We don't have any record that a fund, then an account was set up for a fence for that. So now Royal said he's going to go back and look in his records, see if he can find a receipt or something like that. And so he's going to get back to me, but right now we don't have any accounts or anything showing that.
Okay, thank you.
So I was told when they approved those lots that Pleasant Grove said that those people that build on those houses in Lindon could not have access to that road from the back of their properties, and that a fence would be built.
There is a note on the subdivision plat for the lots on 725 that say no access. There is a note on there.
Okay. Now, the other question is, did I hear you?
He didn't answer about the fence. He just said no.
Yeah, so I don't know. Anyway, so did I hear you say that area that's designated as a road has been purchased by a developer? Or does Pleasant Grove own that ground?
No, what I said is like, can you go back to the county land?
Portion is private.
Can you click on it? So this, everybody has access to this. If you guys see right here, it says that Kelson Angela owns this lot, but can you click on this?
So that,
They inherited it when they bought the store.
that is also owned by Kelson Angela. So I'm referring to county records. So she owns that lot. Was it this
okay,
one?
yeah.
And she owns that much of the road.
But she owns part of that road there? Or part of that area that is designated
Yeah,
as a road?
that all that is in blue right here, all that is owned by Angela. Same as that lot. So she does own that, yes.
So those property owners actually, this is all coming together here for us the last few days. Those property owners came and met with Lindon City staff today, just this morning. And so they had indicated they were looking to subdivide to get their 2 or 3 lots. And whether or not Pleasant Grove would require some of that 1000 South roadway to be built, we don't know that yet. And so one of the questions that they had was about utility service, and that's where I had mentioned to all of you that we had this common shared agreement between PG and Lindon, that we would share utilities. And so some utilities that they might be able to, for them to build a home in this back of their properties, they may have to put in a sewer line that runs down and connects into the end of this, or they may have to extend a water line if they can't get something from the Pleasant Grove side. And so even though there may not be in the nearer future a necessity to build the road, they might have to be out here digging and excavating to put in utility lines. So, you had a question?
Yeah, so can you go back to the one that has the subdivisions like in blue, so I can talk to this guy? Yeah, that guy. So my lot is the one like in front of the church, basically. So you're saying my neighbors are the ones instigating wanting the back road to be built? Because I don't want any divisions. More to your
Your
right.
lot is,
Go more to your right.
my right?
More right. More right. Right there. Where the mouse is?
Keep going.
To your left.
Can you do it with your mouse? Oh, okay, got it, right here, yes.
So that's not my lot, the one to the left of it. The left of that road. Yeah, that one, that whole thing's my lot.
Okay.
I don't plan it anywhere in the future to subdivide it whatsoever.
Mhm.
I want to keep the whole land for myself. Why am I having three streets on my property? Is my neighbors the ones instigating this to have a sewage line and water line so they can subdivide it? So I'm not paying for any of that.
Yeah, no, we won't require you to pay for any of that.
Okay, so even if they want to subdivide and everything, that street that's gonna be dividing myself and my neighbor, I'm not gonna pay for any of that or any of my
No,
property
I
gonna take
think,
away?
so this is your property,
Yeah,
okay? And if these guys want to subdivide, they will have to do whatever is on their side of their property.
okay.
So if you don't want to subdivide, you don't have to. However, in the future, if you want to, then we won't require you to do a cul-de-sac that will lead up most of your land. Whether it's you or whoever it is, you just have to complete that side of the road if you want to. If you don't want to, we won't force you to do it. There's no way we can force you to do it at this point.
My question is for Lyndon. One of the reasons we're here is in the letter that you sent, you were giving that property to Pleasant Grove, right? It's the easement there that's, Kelson goes up to it, then your easement. Is that just a deed transaction? Are we getting any value for it as a Lindon city?
So those roadways that were dedicated to Lindon City, those parcels, they were dedicated as public road and gifted basically to the city as part of this development. And so we would not be seeking any compensation for that. So with the intent, it was dedicated for a public road for public use, and it's owned by now a public entity. We would be maintaining it in the future, whether it's Pleasant Grove or Lindon, as that same use. So.
One other thing to mention about that is that in that agreement between the two cities, we share the maintenance of 1000 South because both of our residents use 1000 South. And so we have it set up and we meet regularly and talk about that road and maintenance of that road. So the existing road that goes over towards State Street, we each share the maintenance of that road and any other roads there along that whole 1000 South corridor. And so likewise, if a new road was put in, we would continue that and we would just continue to share in those costs for maintenance and things like that.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. That's a good point. So even though we may not own it or
Yeah, so
in the future, it doesn't matter.
because like he said, it was dedicated as a public road, it doesn't really matter which entity owns it. We're all gonna work together and we're gonna maintain it as a public road because that's what it is set aside to be, is a public road.
So if there's potholes on it as big as their tire, who do we go talk to, Lindon or PG?
It would start with Pleasant Grove. So, yep.
They have a great record of keeping the roads up. So let me ask you this. So the 1000 South Road eventually connects to the Murdoch Trail, correct? You just go straight and hits in the Pleasant Grove. This is more for a Pleasant Grove question. So that 1000 South continues through and hits the Murdoch Trail. And then there's the Murdoch Road. There's a bunch of homes that are along that Murdoch Trail. What's the plan for those homes? Since this
can I
is a
take that one?
1968 plan, did you allow those people to build there knowing you're gonna tear down those homes?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So,
Left, up,
let's see.
there's a Murdoch Trail.
Yep, so right here is 1,000 South.
Yep,
So as this road continues,
yep.
Lindon and Pleasant Grove, when the Murdoch Canal was piped, we actually jointly paid and upgraded the capacity. It was the size of the pipe, and then put in flowable fill, concrete fill over top of it, with the intent that that roadway would actually turn and go over top of that. And the canal trail would be rerouted to probably go along the south side and then cross.
So what's gonna happen to those homes to the north?
So the homes stay.
So they're receiving letters for no reasons saying that they're gonna be taken from them?
If Pleasant Grove has sent a letter saying they've been,
Is that gonna happen, Pleasant Grove?
We have no plans to send letters to those residents telling them that their homes will be taken. There's zero plan to do that.
Zero plan, okay.
so the current plan on this is that the road would turn and go over top of the canal, and then you can see there's a lot of different lines going on here. Our south side of that roadway is right there. And so as it continues, then it's actually, there's a little strip up there that the city owns behind these other houses, and then turns, there's that future roadway. So Lindon City owns this. That section was dedicated when all of this was developed. And then as this property develops, there would be more road dedication or improvements there. So all of these little pieces are future road right-of-way. So does that answer your question? Okay.
Those have been dedicated
To the city.
to the city, yeah.
Yeah.
When this guy just built his home here, some of these were developed to, were dedicated to Lindon for the future road, or Pleasant Grove to the future road, sorry.
So we're coming up on an hour, and we had told our Pleasant Grove friends about 45 minutes or so. So is there any other questions that we could answer for you? Yeah.
Sorry, I came in late, but what I want to know is, what's the motivating factor behind all of this? Why is this being done? And over again tonight I hear, we have no plans to do this. We have no plans to do that. We've heard that for several years, and all of a sudden there's plans. And so why are you doing this? What's the motivation, the real motivation behind this?
So, and because you stepped in late, we had actually reviewed some of our prior city street master plans that we've adopted over the years. And back into the 60s, we've had plans that show where our major roadways would be so that we can connect and help people move efficiently through our cities. And so that we wouldn't have lots of dead ends. And so we want to make sure that people can, as they travel on a vehicle or on a bike, or as they're walking along a sidewalk, that they can get from A to B efficiently. And so our plans do show that this is a planned roadway to be shared between Pleasant Grove and Lindon, this future 1,000 South. And as properties around it develop, sections of it may be improved over time.
But you just had a developer improve the road to the north of that, widen it, so they put in some sidewalks. It's a major thoroughfare now. Why do you need two major roadways a block apart?
I think there's some confusion there.
I understand your question.
900 South in Pleasant Grove has not been improved at all. It doesn't have, most of the time it has open ditches on the side of the road, and it's not a full width roadway.
So some of these major collector roads we would be looking at is a few things that cities have tried to do would be to limit the number of driveways that might be on the roadway, so you have fewer possible hazards or conflicts with traffic. You don't have as many people backing out. We've also tried to make sure that they're wide enough to accommodate turn lanes. And so can you zoom into that intersection there on one of the maps, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
On 1,000 South.
And Locust.
Yes, and so this is wide enough that it would accommodate a turn lane to be installed so that you could have left-hand turns. On some of our local streets, like 725, they're a narrower asphalt width that wouldn't accommodate a turn lane or a center median. And so there's some wider aspects to the streets that may help traffic flow. That's probably the best answer.
So the next question I have then is, if this in fact goes through and the plans become as you are explaining them, I hear mention of this fence or, something, protection for the backyards of the people on 725. What guarantee do we have that you, just like was done when the original development was made, people talk about it and say, we will build you a fence? What guarantees us that you will put in a fence that we don't have to pay for? And that it will be...
Nothing right now. So just to clarify this, there's been no commitments made by either city to put in a fence. We've heard from several residents that a fence may be desired, and so I think a lot of you actually have fences along your backyard, but I think what may be intended is that you're looking for a solid wall type of thing.
A safety, yeah.
And so we've heard that comment, and we would certainly, when that roadway goes in and is built, we would look at, hey, is that something we can accommodate? A great question is who pays for that? And we don't know that answer yet.
Well, the answer would be you'd be responsible for that.
Lindon City taxpayers?
No, whoever puts in the road has got to put in.
That's a question we don't know the answer of, could we even require somebody who's developing 2 or 3 lots, hundreds of feet away, to put in a fence on the south side of that roadway? That would be a great question for our city attorneys to ask.
And you would be accommodating this person who's developing a few lots, but not accommodating the people whose lots are being impacted.
And I can't answer that question for you, ma'am, I'm sorry, at this time.
Isn't it interesting? You can't answer the questions.
Well, I don't have an answer for you.
that will impact people's lives.
Like Brendy's got 4 little kids and she's only got half a fence. So
And
all of a sudden
you're welcome to keep your existing fences in place.
It's
And
half
so,
a fence, so it's only this big. It's
okay,
not
and we don't even have a roadway yet, so.
That's not comforting because.
And that's why Adam said we have to look, we'll have to discuss this with our attorney, Pleasant Grove will have to discuss this, because the courts have said there has to be this nexus, right? And so if a developer's building down the road, a few lots, is that wall a nexus, how's that related to his development? So those are things we have to work out with our attorneys, and so those are things we'll look at in the future. We've noted that, and those are things we'll have to look at.
So where is your responsibility? To the people who live there now and pay taxes now, or to the people who are going to develop?
Great question. That I can't answer this is in regard to the wall that you're.
Seems to me that you're supposed to be,
To represent us.
I am not an elected official.
And that's why you don't have to feel worried about it, because you can just make your plans.
I disagree with that, but I am concerned about how our properties and you as residents are impacted in Lindon City, and I think all of our staff are. And so
it would be
when this
better
road develops,
if we felt that.
I hope that you felt that as we've set up this meeting to help inform you as residents and of this issue. So I hope that you felt that we've tried to let you know about this and be open and receive comments about it. So, yeah.
So the reason why we're here is because we have a developer, correct? We have a developer that says, hey, I want to develop my land, how am I gonna do it? So we're trying to find the best way to do it. People of Lindon have been amazing, especially your employees and the way they have approached to us. They have asked us so many questions. We met with them because we don't want to do this like in the shadows. That's why I send you the notices. And people of Lindon were like, yeah, well, thank you so much for helping us out. And we're working on this together. They totally represent you and they want the best for you guys. What we have to do, and I think at the end, because if someone is gonna develop land in Pleasant Grove City, and I'm gonna go, I don't know where the idea of the wall came from. I'm pretty sure it's from previous meetings or whatever. But if I go and say, hey, you need to build the wall, and he's gonna say no, and I'm gonna sue you, and I'm gonna lose like this. So same thing with Lindon, right? We want to avoid at all times any suing or any litigation with anybody. We want to make sure that we're trying to accommodate. That's why we have these meetings. Again, we don't have an answer right now to the extent, the specifics to tell you that, you know, we're going to put a wall this tall and this color, because we haven't had those conversations yet. Everything that we're having right now is stemmed from Pleasant Grove saying, hey, we're not going to put cul-de-sacs. That road, 1,000 or 800, from whatever jurisdiction you want to see it, that road has always been on the plans, always been on the plans. It was just ratified by the city council last year. So same for Pleasant Grove City. So that is not in question.
Can you tell us why it switched from cul-de-sacs to this plan? What was the motivating factor behind that?
So the motivating factor is so when they did the cul-de-sac, the engineer who did it, or the plan that did it, that one he just grabbed and he didn't took into consideration the zoning. He didn't take into consideration the location of the homes. He just drew roads and say, hey, this is how it can be done, okay? So it is ineffective. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for utilities. It doesn't work for the way for accessibility. It doesn't work. Some of those cul-de-sacs go through the middle of people's homes, right? So it's not gonna work. So in trying to, not to maximize the number of lots, because I can care less if a developer goes to 20 or 25. But I care if he has to go to the middle of someone's home. So that's what we try to do, right? But the location of 1,800/800 is the same, it's been the same. We're not changing that. Now, we have a problem, and we want to let you guys know, hey, this might come here, and we want you guys to be aware. When we approach Lindon, there's so many questions. They truly, and maybe I'm just speaking from my side, but they truly do represent you guys, and they are holding us accountable for what we have. We're providing everything that we have, because at the end it's going to be a developer for Pleasant Grove City. That's why I send you guys the notices. And I told my staff, we need to make sure we send the notices. But I think it's important that you guys know, I never talked to him in my life. I've talked to Michael a lot. But it's important that you guys know that they do represent you. They do look for the best. That's why they told me, Daniel, you need to be here at 5, even though I didn't want to be here at 5. But they brought me here at 5 because they want me to answer to you guys. So they do represent you. They do looking for the best for you. They're trying to find out how we can do this without getting sued by someone and then losing more than what we got, that wall's gonna cost us.
I got a question. Thank you for your words. Hey, what about impact fees? Developers have impact fees. Whenever it has an effect on a community such as this, you should know what the impact fees are. So those impact fees should be directed specifically for a fence and meeting the needs of the Lindon residents. So having this focused in Pleasant Grove, what kind of impact fees do you have for a developer?
It's a good question. So impact fees are tightly regulated by the state of Utah, by their legislature, and they only let cities collect impact fees for certain specific utilities, only after we've done extensive studies to show that those fees are justified. And a fence impact fee does not exist.
Of course.
That's why unfortunately. So but other utilities like sewer, water, streets, things like that, we can collect impact fees. If we've created a study, said we need these, they have to be a certain size, and these impacts will be caused, and here's how much it'll cost. And so we have to have those updated every few years, but we don't have one for a fence.
So continuing on the fence thing, it sounds, and then you saying you don't want to get sued by the developer's attorney and then the city attorney. Are you basically telling us that we need to band together and to get an attorney ourselves to represent our street to ensure our needs are addressed? Is that what you're telling us?
Absolutely not.
No, you already have one.
Yes.
You're being heard tonight, Eve, and you've been heard in the past. We've had email communication since 2019 on this, and so we're an open book. We want you to be able to have questions answered. We'll try to do the best we can, but we just don't know if and when the road will be built, and how and when a fence could be built, if that's feasible, and who would pay for it.
Got a question. actually got three quick questions. Number
Yeah.
one, you keep on talking about the developer. Who is the developer? Do you have the name?
So PG's been approached by an individual that, let's see, do we have their name again?
Angela
Who?
Kelson.
Whoever owns that big piece.
So it's the property owner that's the developer. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, and it could be multiple properties, so maybe these people want to develop someday.
Okay.
And
Next question. If they take down our fence, then they need to replace the fence. Is that correct?
there's no current proposal that I know of that somebody's looking to take down your fence.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, if your fence is not on your property line, it's on their property, they might be able to take your fence down without replacing it.
I understand, but I also understand if there was a property line that's been maintained for 7 years or more, that property line, and I'm pretty sure it's fine, but I'm just saying if it's not, they would still have to compensate you for the land that they're taking, correct?
You're asking if a developer can condemn and take part of your land?
Well, no, you're talking about property lines, so I'm saying if there's a dispute
If you
with-
have not gone past your property line and your fence is on your back property line,
Yeah.
I don't know why they could take your fence without compensation.
Okay, and then my next question is, it seems like there's a lot of questions, but the answer that keeps on coming back is, well, that's not in the plans, that's not in the plans. So I would recommend, or I would suggest, before any work get moved forward on this proposal, that we know exactly all the plans, because what happens, because I've seen it happen before, is it's the old kick the can down the road, and it's not in the plans, it's not in the plans. But then you start doing all this work, and then by the time it's, people are like, well, wait a minute, but what about this? Oh, well, it's too late, we're already past that point, and you just keep on going. So to be fair, I really believe that all of these people that have asked questions, and the answer has been, that's not in the plan, we need to have some type of assurance what the plan actually is before you move forward with this development.
Great comment. And so as part of developments, the cities, and I believe PG would have the same requirement to send out notices to surrounding property owners when a new subdivision is approved. Is that, or it's being, with the new legislation,
But
yeah.
you know, for the road, yes. I mean, if there's something that's going on, if there's a legislative decision that has to be made, you guys will get notices. For the subdivision, I think I have all of you guys' email on that piece of paper. I'm not required, but I'll hook you guys up. I'll send them to you. I'll send you the plans. Plus, my office is at the PG City. You guys come and knock on my door anytime. I'll gladly show you everything I have, because well, I have the list of I'm not required to do it. The state law doesn't require it, but I'll send you guys. Say, hey, finally there's a subdivision here. Take a look at it. I'll make sure you guys at least can take a look at it. Remember that this is an administrative decision, whether they meet the code or not. Okay, it's not even if I like it or I don't like it, doesn't matter. It's whether they meet the code or not. But as soon as I have a subdivision application, if I get that list with me, I'll make sure you guys get notice of that by that list. Okay.
One last question, and then I think we're gonna wrap up. Yes.
Okay, at the PG meeting, the Kelsons were there, and they said that they had no desire to put the road all the way through, straight through. They were totally happy with the cul-de-sac idea.
For a flag lot.
For a flag lot, correct. I don't know if they're here tonight. And so what I'm interested in, and the background for my questions are, so who is pushing this? The Kelsons are not. They were willing to sell us their strip of land between the two communities. They don't want it. So who?
Want to lose it to eminent domain. Better us to pay them now.
Well,
than us
sure.
lose it.
We understand that. But what I'm saying is, if it's not the Kelsons, who is pushing for this?
If I'm going to try to answer your question, no one is, as far as in this room, no one is pushing to put this roadway in right now. There may be developments like the Kelsons that would trigger part of the roadway to be improved when they subdivide their property. And so they met with us this morning as Lindon staff, and we informed them they may have to run a utility lines along this corridor. And so they brought up, hey, you know, we've been approached by property owners to sell this to property owners. They didn't realize that they may need that to put in those utilities at some point to serve even their own 2 or 3 lots. And so that conversation may have changed. But at some point, as these adjacent properties subdivide and try to develop new homes, they may have to put in portions of that roadway. But as of right now, other than the Kelsons, I don't know of anybody that's pushing for the road.
Why isn't Pleasant Grove letting the Kelsons, you come in from Ninth?
So we talked a little bit about it, but there's some unique challenges here with regard to the utilities. So some utilities, like your sewer and your storm drain, those utilities are what we call gravity utilities, and they have to go downhill. And there's a lot of fall from 9th South to 1000 South. And it would be impractical for them to do sewer and storm drain that would pump somehow up to 900 South in PG and then go down 900 South. So that's why we talked about there's that shared utility agreement. Those utilities have to go in 1000 South to serve those lots. And that's why some of those things will have to happen in order to make this, any development, develop in that area.
You can't use the septic tank?
No, the Utah County Health Department will not allow new septic tanks to be put in a subdivision where we have sewer systems. There are a lot of existing septic tanks, and those can remain, but if you're within a certain proximity of a sewer system, you are required to connect.
I have one more question. Why is it that the bottom of where Evans are, 1000, on Lindon side can face north, but then all the roads going up, all the houses have no access? I know that's been there forever, but why were they allowed lower access?
I didn't quite understand.
So
your question.
1000 where the new houses just went in.
Right here?
Yes, they're
Okay.
facing north. But up above, there's no access along all those, the
Correct.
S&P plat.
Right.
Say they have no access, and I understand that was there before, but why was the lower part allowed access?
Yeah, these were the only way that they could face would be onto 1000 South. They didn't own this side down here. So those homes were all existing, and so the only way that they could develop would be to front onto that. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
One thing that I think is really important to bring up, and I know you talked about it, about the purpose of why we're here. Can you go back to the vicinity plan? We talked about the roads, and the roads are just lines on a page. So before we had the cul-de-sacs, and those were just lines on a page. But like we talked about, those cul-de-sacs were not viable. Downhill cul-de-sacs like that would have been a major problem to have the utilities that we just talked about, the water, the storm drain, and the sewer having to go through side yards and backyards. Major problems that would have just become a problem. We have those in some places, and we get rid of them as often as we can. So we needed to make a change to get rid of those cul-de-sacs. So all we're doing from Pleasant Grove, this is the whole purpose of what happened, is we're changing those lines from cul-de-sacs to just a few vertical streets to connect those things where they need to be connected. And that's all we're talking about. So when you talk about the building of the road and the construction of the road, that's not even what's being presented or how, that's not even part of the presentation. It's literally only, these are the major roads that we expect to see when a developer comes in. Yeah, this had some roads. We're actually, I think, decreasing. I think if you went farther, there was another road. So there was like 4 before, and we've decreased it to 3 now. And so I think that will also help there not be quite as much traffic and not as many problems with that area as it moves forward.
One more question, and maybe you answered this. The road that's clear up along the mountain, when was that put on the master plan?
Can you go to that 68 plan and see, Mike? I think it's on there back then. So this is our 1968 master plan, shows a Bonneville Drive.
Okay.
Yeah. So, thank you everybody for coming. I will stay here as long as I need to help answer your questions, but we're gonna end tonight and let our PG friends and some of our other city staff go. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to stick around and answer those for you. So And we, just as an FYI, our mayor, Lindon's mayor, and one of our city council members is here tonight, and so they've heard this. And then as a reminder for anybody that came in late, this has been live streamed on YouTube, so you can rewatch it. You can share it with neighbors or friends. If they have questions, they can hear the discussion. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just 2 blocks, almost straight from where we was.
Where's the lease? So I don't
I, you guys are talking, you have to be my friend.